Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this Thursday. And my name is Michael Covone, the Chief Revenue Officer of Deepblocks, as we are going to be doing instant market canvassing and finding development opportunities throughout Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're going to probably be focusing on industrial sites, multifamily sites. We're going to enter in specific criteria into the site selection tool and show you how quickly we can canvass a particular market from South Philadelphia through Central Philly, all the way through North Philadelphia, and find those opportunities for development. And again, probably going to stay focused in industrial and probably try to touch on multifamily as well if we have some time. But the key is, again, to go through and demonstrate what we call instant market canvassing and the power of our site selection capabilities to take months of work and do it in a matter of minutes with Deepblocks. So again, I do appreciate you taking the time to join us this week. And if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to use our chat and ask some questions. If you want to reach out to me after the webinar, please reach out at michael@deepblocks.com. We could always set up a one-on-one demo or have a conversation to see how Deepblocks can work for you and help improve your process. But until we wait a few more minutes, we're going to let some more people join and jump in on this webinar. In the meantime, we're going to kind of share my screen. We're going to kind of go through some of the key segments of deepblocks.com, which I always like to do each and every week to show you the resources that we have at your fingertips to help you with using Deepblocks and to make sure you maximize the capabilities of the software. All right, so this is deepblocks.com. Currently, I'm on the city section. As I like to always know, we are in 100 cities with zoning. So we continue to expand here at Deepblocks. So we have exactly 100 cities with zoning data. In addition, we have over 1,000 plus cities, over 11 million parcels in our database as well. So for every single parcel, though, we do embed that zoning data within those 100 cities. Additionally, we converge, we have market intelligence. We also show demographic trends and other key map layers that you can overlay on top of your site selection to truly analyze a particular area and get some very solid insights of what is going on in a particular market. And truly, again, our whole goal here is to expedite your process and allow you to find those opportunities much faster and also get you to do it without getting too many other consultants involved or dealing with any other individuals, and kind of do it in-house and save you some upfront costs and really get through the site selection process much faster, as well as go through into our Explorer interface, which allows you to do a 3D modeling and our feasibility studies. And again, at a high level, understand the one-year return on cost and the true potential of a particular parcel. So, what Deepblocks says, I always like to note, it's kind of broken into two interfaces where, again, the front end is our site selection tool and market scanner, where the back end is our Explorer interface and allows you to, again, construct those 3D models and enter in setbacks. You can enter in the income assumption, cost assumptions, as well as kind of analyze and go through thousands of iterations to truly figure out the best possible scenario for a particular parcel. So again, it's going to give a couple more minutes to let some more people join. Again, I do appreciate taking the time this afternoon to join us and explore instant market canvassing with Deepblocks. Again, it's a term we like to use here at Deepblocks because it kind of really highlights the strength of our software to canvass a market. I mean, it's very difficult, the way everyone's doing things prior to Deepblocks. I mean, getting so many different people involved in terms and looking for deals and sourcing deals, as well as looking for certain off-market opportunities, as well as, the software and data is all fragmented. So therefore, with Deepblocks, we're trying to converge all that into one centralized software solution. So again, we're trying to bring various data sets as we build our rich real estate database. In addition, allow you to go through this process much, much faster and really scan a market, again, as we always like to say, in minutes. I mean, we're seeing things done in record time in terms of finding opportunities, bringing, anywhere from 10, 15, 20 deals out to and getting one to LOI as quickly as possible. And it's very, the process we're seeing with our users is just exponentially much better and improving at a great rate as we continue to add more data sets As I mentioned, we're always adding more cities, bringing in more functionalities. Great time to be a part of Deepblocks. As I always like to mention too, we're currently, at $36,000 for our national pricing, but we also now offer a state pricing of $18,000, so you can get that entire state with all the cities at $18,000, and you can also you'll actually not only have access to the cities that we currently have live, but as we continue to add cities, you will also get those cities throughout the year. And then we have our local subscription at $5,400 per city if you're only focused in on one particular market, or even maybe one or two markets. So those are our three different subscription prices. So with that being said, we're going to kind of get our webinar started. And we're going to demonstrate instant market canvassing throughout Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here is my dashboard and where I save all my projects. And we're going to search Philadelphia, PA. And it's something to always keep in mind when we're going through these webinars each and every week. I always like to kind of put myself in your shoes of how many people are using or are part of your process to source deals and find these off-market development opportunities. How are you currently doing it versus if you do not have Deepblocks at the moment, and how can Deepblocks improve your process? Again, I like to say exponentially. We're trying to do things using our artificial intelligence and machine learning models to really improve and streamline this process to a point where it increases such an efficiency in your time as well as your costs and reducing costs that you just become very reliant on our software. And our software is so powerful. We have such a strong foundation where we're not only incorporating various data sets, as I mentioned, we continue to build out key functionalities. We're always looking to work with, and to expand how far Deepblocks can go. So always keeping that back in your mind. How long is your process taking now? Like, what are you currently using? How many people are you are required to do your process? And always realize that each one of those key steps can be minimized drastically by the use of Deepblocks. So here we are in Philadelphia, PA. And just always like to keep advised that we like to use Google Chrome. And that is because, again, Deepblocks is a SaaS product, so you can pretty much use it on any browser. We always recommend Google Chrome, so that is something to keep in mind. I like to keep my screen about 80% when I'm going through Deepblocks and scanning markets, because the more parcels we can capture in the screen, the more we can scan, the faster we kind of go through that market. Now, if you have a larger screen, you can even capture more of that particular city. But one thing I like to do, we're going to zoom out a little bit, kind of get an idea of where we are in Philadelphia. This is a little bit more the northern part of the city, as you'll notice, kind of north of like going down North Broad Street. So I would say it's about a little bit north of Kensington area, in that particular area. Now, Kensington's, as I mentioned in my post today, Kensington's become a very popular area. There's been a nice trend in Northeast Philadelphia, a little below Northeast in the sense of Northern Liberties, Fishtown, and now Kensington are going through a nice development process. It started with Northern Liberties, and now as we move through Fishtown, and now, as I mentioned, Kensington is seeing some tremendous development growth. But usually with that trend and that trajectory comes, it's somewhat contagious. So the next neighboring town could be in this particular part of North Philly. And we could be looking for industrial, as I mentioned, office development plays, or potentially multifamily. Again, with Deepblocks, you can go through all the major asset classes from office, retail, industrial, multifamily development. We do have a question. Yes, we have a question mentioned. You mentioned $5,400 for one city or a couple cities. As that for per year, is that true for a new market as well? Yes, it's $5,400 per city for 1 year, for the year. And if you need a couple of cities, we can always consider, we can talk and work out a package for you. So there's always some type of volume pricing that we can always discuss. But if it's just one particular city you need, it would be $5,400 for that year for that one city. So as I mentioned, now we're going to kind of, what I first like to do is kind of get a good feel for the city of Philly. We're going to kind of zoom out and get to that macro level before I kind of jump in. And this gives us a nice overview of the entire city. So you can see we were just in this northern part of Philly. This kind of is your northeast part of Philadelphia, if you're familiar with the city, that goes up around 95. Okay, and we do have another question. Is that even if the city is not currently listed? Yes, we could. So if you are interested in adding a city that is not listed, we can, the way it works is you can pay for one city that we currently have listed, and you can also get an additional city for free if you get a subscription. So we can add one city for free for you. With our national license, we always add one city for free as well. So if you're doing a local license, I believe the price is going to be $5,400 to add that one city. So just it depends on what you're looking to do. So if it's a state license or a national license, we will add one city for free with the purchase of that subscription. If it's just one city you need, you will have to pay $5,400 for that city, and we will get it added for you. We can add cities relatively quickly with zoning, so we do have that method in place. So yeah, please I'll reach out to you after the webinar, and we'll definitely connect. I appreciate the questions. And so just kind of, again, so this is what we call our buildable area ratio. This is a very helpful layer to kind of get an idea of where we're seeing pockets of density and where there's development potential. The hot red is really where we're seeing the greatest potential. Then the yellow is kind of your least potential, but the orange is kind of also gives you a good idea of where there's also growing interest. So we were kind of looking at this northern part, and here's your southern part of Philadelphia. This is kind of where the stadiums are in Philly. This is Center City, northern Philly, and as I mentioned, this is northeast Philly. So we can also throw in our opportunity zones to just get an idea of where there might be some tax incentives throughout the city of Philadelphia. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of put my focus more on this northern part of Philly. Again, the whole concept here is doing instant canvas market canvassing, so we can canvas the entire city for these development opportunities. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to look for industrial plays at first, and we're going to kind of, the way I like to do it, and again, a lot of users out there, they have their guidelines and their criteria, what type of development plays they're looking for based on lot size, based on asset class, their gross buildable, whatever it may be. And they can use our tool to quickly identify these properties and parcels that are off-market deals that will basically meet their guidelines, and then they can quickly go through this market and find exactly the parcels that are matching their criteria. So we're going to continue to zoom in until these parcels appear. As I mentioned, this is kind of, we're going to look at this part of Philadelphia up in this northern area, and we're going to turn on that market scanner, continue to zoom in a little bit until the parcels appear. And always keep in mind, in addition to having we have various layers, we also have our census data type layers, which show employment percentages throughout and all the census tracts throughout the city. We show median incomes throughout the city. We can look at population as well, which is pretty important in terms of building out an industrial development play to get a good feel for what is in the area. We can also show market rates. So we show our industrial market rates. This is dollar per square foot that we're seeing in a particular census tract. We're taking an aggregate of listing data throughout the country, applying our machine learning to bring a strong baseline of what we're seeing for dollar per square foot in the industrial field. We also do it for retail, office, hotel, and residential as well for those particular rates. So again, we're going to continue to zoom in, and now we'll start to see our parcels should appear any minute. There we go. So you can see all those blue outlines are all the parcels within this particular part of Philadelphia. And again, I'm going to kind of demonstrate how we're going to focus this search here, but we're going to scan the entire market. So we're going to move the screen from northern part of Philadelphia through Center City down to southern Philadelphia. But before I start moving my screen, I want to kind of enter in what I'm searching for. So again, we're looking for industrial place. So you can do it one of two ways. If you know your zoning district and understand the zoning codes, you could identify parcels based on zoning districts, or you could use uses allowed, which is we always like to recommend because it's a little more general way of looking for certain parcels based on the use allowed. So again, if you're looking for a single family, property zone for single family, you could type in single family. If you're looking for parcel zone for multifamily, you can enter in multifamily, and we literally list all the use allowed based on that particular city. Every city has a little bit different wording for how they have use allowed. We do have another question here. How often is the rental data updated price per square foot? Very good question. So yeah, we keep our data relatively current. So we update zoning data at the moment once a quarter. I would say the industrial rate, all the rates that I just mentioned, we're constantly, when we do releases almost on a month, I would say at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, but every time we do a release, we validate any type of data that we are using our machine learning. So for the rates, we validate that information and make sure we're in line with what we're seeing in the current marketplace. We like to say we're about 5 to 10 percentage points within the current figure, just to give you a good, strong, as I mentioned, strong baseline of understanding. When I kind of can explain, like in the Explorer interface, when you do the 3D modeling, we provide sub-market rates for the rental incomes as well as construction costs. We'll show you the hard costs. Those are also devised by our machine learning. So those are also being updated, relatively routinely. So we do our best here at Deepblocks to keep this data as updated as possible. There are various data sets that are inside our database. So again, we have census data. As I mentioned, we have different types of market data. We also have all our zoning data. So there are different ways of keeping that. We have our parcel level data. So each one has different stages of keeping it up to date. Our goal as we continue to grow is to get that data as close to real time as possible, and that's where we're heading. But we do keep it relatively current, especially on the rate side. So that is something it's a very, very good question, because obviously the data needs to be accurate in order to help you with your process. So, all right. So before I actually start to look for these parcels, just to give you kind of an idea of how many parcels we are looking at the moment. One little trick I like to always say is you can just put in the lot size of your range 0 to 1.5 million. You should pretty much cover every parcel. And right now we're looking at 18,000 parcels in my viewport. All right, so keep that in mind as we can start to search and refine our search. So again, I'm looking for industrial play. We're going to do industrial again right there. So we just went from 18,000 parcels to 2,400 parcels matching that are zoned for industrial. At any time you have matching parcels, you could export out to CSV all those parcels. So when I was showing the 18,000 down to these 2,467, we could export to CSV all those listings. You'll receive all legal addresses for those properties and about 15 additional columns from the zoning information, some demographic data tied to those parcels. And so some real key information, a great sourcing document for you to really begin your process. Obviously, the goal is to really find those few opportunities that you were looking for based on your criteria. So it's continuing to refine our search. Now, part of my guidelines for this particular search, I'm going to be looking for roughly about an acre or so of lot size. So we go about 40,000, 45,000. I believe an acre is 43,500 square feet or around that area. We're going to be looking for a gross build of about 200,000 minimum. All right. You can see we're already down to 15 parcels matching. So just to show you, we quickly went from that 18,000 to 15 parcels in a matter of minutes to really begin finding properties that match my development criteria for industrial. And I'm going to actually have one more piece of criteria. We're going to throw existing building square footage on, and I'm going to be looking for anything with at least an existing building of 20,000 square feet or less. And the reason I'm looking for something with existing building of this amount of square footage or less is most likely, if I'm looking to do a gross buildable of 200,000 square feet that has that potential of industrial development, but there's only 20,000 square foot of existing building, that means there's a wide gap there that we can, and a great opportunity to capitalize on that parcel to really develop and meet the true zoning potential of that parcel. So that kind of goes in hand with what I was showing when I was showing that gross buildable layer earlier on that general tab. This buildable area ratio, that index is showing that difference. It's basically where we're identifying where there's a pockets of interest where there's, based on calculations we've made, that there's existing properties that are not maxed out to the current zoning capacity. They're underutilized, and then you can identify that pretty quickly with Deepblocks. If it's either looking for existing building area based on a lesser square footage, knowing that the gross buildable is a certain amount. It's you can also do it through unit. If you're doing a multifamily play, we could do it based on unit density. We could look at buildings that are much older and we most likely are not meeting that proper again, the maximum zoning parameters. So this is how Deepblocks really not only intensifies your search and brings you very good results, it does it so in a very fast manner of scanning this market. So now we're down to 3 parcels matching for industrial play in this part of Northern Philadelphia. So now let's keep that in the back of our mind. I just want to show you how quickly we can kind of move through the city and see what else we can find. So we're going to just start to go south and move along through the city of Philadelphia. I'm just going to kind of go directly south. And you'll notice as we move our screen, our software is going to gather the data, and it's going to quickly update the results to see if we have any more opportunities. So now we have, in this particular part of Philadelphia, we have one parcel matching. So this is about this is 13th Street. So we're just kind of near Temple University. So we're still in North Philly, but a little south of where I was just originally searching. But again, we're going to continue to move our screen and canvas this market. And this is exactly what we define by canvassing the market. We're just going right through the city. Now we're kind of right in the heart of center city of Philadelphia. Again, we have 3 parcels matching based on my guidelines. There's one here. There's probably a couple just hiding behind these. There's another one down here. Sometimes they hide behind the menu, so you got to kind of maybe move the screen a little bit. But if you're familiar with Philadelphia, this is at 95. Here's Ben Franklin Parkway right here, and the art museum is up in this area. So, but this is pretty much, we're heading through center city. This is exactly where City Hall is. So again, in a matter of going through the city and scanning this market, we started out about 3 parcels matching, and then that northern part of Philadelphia, as we came a little bit south, we found 1 parcel, and now we're finding another 3 in center city. But yeah, let's continue to move south. Let's continue to scan this market as we head towards the southern part of Philadelphia and kind of towards the stadiums. You see, now we have 4 parcels matching. We got 1 right here, and again, you can see with the menus. If I minimize the menus, you might be able to see them. There's 1, 2 more there. There's probably another couple, and so there you go. You have 1, 2, 3, and then there's a 4th one probably underneath these menus. But again, you can always move the screen a little bit. So let's continue to move and continue to scan this entire market. And we're going to continue to go south. And you can see this is like understanding the true power of this of Deepblocks is the fact that, you can see all these parcels. In order to do something to this significant and to this magnitude, it could take sometimes months, or you would need a very extravagant network to really encompass and gather all these different properties and what's possibly available now. And I'm just currently showing like parcels available for industrial. We can go into showing assemblages that we could possibly do and looking for different other ways of doing development opportunities. But for this particular webinar, I just kind of want to show how fast we can scan through Philadelphia and look for these opportunities of industrial plays based on our criteria. And again, if you know your business model and you understand your development criteria and your thesis, that you can easily pump it right in and continue and go search right to the market. So right now we're coming up. So we're pretty much right in South Philly. And you'll notice we have 1 parcel right here that's available. And I believe we're almost, so this is pretty much where the stadiums are at. Here's Wells Fargo. The link would be right over here. So there's your baseball stadium, Citizen Bank Park. So this is pretty much the southern part of Philadelphia, and we'll pretty much stop at this point now. The way you can always kind of get an idea, we can always turn on our zoning map as well to see where Deepblocks, we cover within the city limits of Philadelphia. One thing we are working on adding is continue to add some cities in the MSAs of some of the biggest markets. So that's always something else to keep in mind. We are always adding cities and working with our partners to add and continue to fill out particular MSAs and primary markets as well as other areas. We do have another question. Do you have a layer of affordability or live tech built with it? So that's a very good question. At the moment, we do not have a live tech scoring system built in. We have been in conversations with companies to implement it. It's a very sophisticated process. If you know live tech scoring, it's a very involved. Every state pretty much has their own live tech guidelines, but we have gone through the process. It's definitely something the software is capable of doing it, but just will require some additional work to get it implemented. But what we do in terms of affordability to truly understand the market, we like to just, there's other ways of doing it. We can turn on our median income to kind of get an idea of, the income levels we're seeing, and there's different trends we'll show. For instance, you can turn on these demographic trends, and we can look at employment population. We can look at median gross sample. We can also look at median household income to see where the income levels are for particular areas. So you can see as you put your mouse over these areas, you'll see based on that census tract, and we can kind of focus in on those income levels. So another way we could always do it too is you could always search by median income and say we're looking for parcels that are zoned for industrial. Well, if I did, I was looking for affordable housing. We could do multifamily, and we could put in units allowed a certain number, and then we could actually say we're looking for a median income of roughly of 25,000 or less, or whatever the threshold is that you're trying to accomplish, and you'll see the parcels that will match and based on that criteria. So there's ways of using the software to develop multifamily for affordable housing. But in terms of the LIHTC side of it, again, as I mentioned, we have evaluated implementing that into the system and working with some of our partners. It's something we're still in talks about doing. It's a very involved process. Again, if you know anything about LIHTC scoring, which I'm sure you do, there's a lot of various steps in guidelines in order to find those properties. But it is another very good question. The LIHTC scoring is a huge capability that we would love to put into this to help, again, find those development opportunities, especially for affordable housing. So kind of going back to this particular example of industrial, as I mentioned, we can always turn on our zoning layer. This kind of gives you an idea as we scan a city to see our boundaries, our zoning. Now I can scan out a bit further. Now you'll lose the parcels for a second, but this kind of gives you a good idea of seeing the zoning throughout Philadelphia. So you can see that zoning map and really get an idea of how much coverage we have in terms of this massive market. I mean, I believe city is one of the top 5-6 markets in the country, so it's a very big market. There's a lot of development going on in Philadelphia, from multifamily development, industrial development, especially office development as well. Comcast obviously has a lot to do with that increase in development, and the city's on a nice little rise. But again, that zoning map is a very good layer of activating to really get a good feel of our boundaries to see how far of our reach we go throughout the city of Philly. And as you can tell, we really cover quite a bit. So I kind of want to just one last thing I'll kind of demonstrate just to kind of going a little bit off the previous question, as I was kind of doing market scanning for industrial, but let's take it a step further. As I mentioned in the beginning, we could do it for multifamily. Again, we could do it for any asset class. We could do it for multifamily. We could do it for hotel, and I mean, we could do this for a number of uses that are allowed based on the zoning of that particular city. So these are just the general asset classes, but again, within those general classes and uses, you have a very specific breakdown of what these parcels are zoned for, and our software allows you to identify those opportunities. But let's kind of do a search now based on multifamily. So I'm going to kind of zoom back in again, and we're going to reactivate that market scanner. Now you'll notice that the scanner won't activate until these parcels reappear, because that's kind of the premise of it, is to go through our site selection and scan the market using our and looking for these parcels. So within every parcel, we do have embedded the zoning information. So just to kind of, and I will quickly kind of highlight a quick example of the information you do receive when you select a parcel. But so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn these sliders off for 2 seconds. We're going to kind of, all right, like I mentioned, we're looking for multi. Now, again, maybe just residential. The thing is, every city, and that's one thing, every city has their own wording. We're trying to get better at standardizing the wording for what each zoning uses allowed is. So right now we're going to just select residential for this particular example, and you'll see we have 2,600 properties that are zoned for residential, and we can look for. Let's see. I'm going to look for. As I mentioned, we can look for anything underneath a certain median income. We'll look for anything that's $30,000, maybe some affordable housing plays. And now we're down to 568 parcels. We can look for lot sizes of, let's say, 0 to, say, 25,000 square feet. All right. we can look for existing buildings, let's say less than 5,000, let's say less than 10,000 square feet. Let's go a little less than that. Let's go 5,000. All right, so we're down to 486. And again, you can just continue to enter in different pieces of criteria to, and we can also look at median gross rent. Let's say our gross rent's only about 750. Let's see if that gives us some less results. Down to 99 matches. So I'm going to start to zoom in a bit. And let's start to scan this market, looking for these multifamily plays. These residential plays, I should say, based on these different factors. Let's see what comes up. All right, let me actually turn off this median gross rent for 1 second. All right, so we get about 1,200 parcels. I just kind of want to identify and show you. You select a parcel of what it allows you, what you kind of get to see. So you'll see, all right, the median gross rent here is 855. Median income is 27,000. Our existing building is at 2,400 square feet. And you get your general use allowed and some zoning limits. So again, each city is a little bit different on what they provide in terms of zoning information. Some cities are a little bit more in detail. We'll see FAR, we'll see units allowed, we'll see it's maybe a little more extensive. We'll see more specific use allowed. We'll see our setbacks, our parking by use. So again, depending on the city, for the most part, a lot of our cities do provide extensive amount of zoning information. As I mentioned, you'll see parking by use, you'll see setbacks, you'll see that units allowed, you'll see unit density. It really goes into depth on what is in the parameters and what is allowed in by right to be developed on that particular parcel. But I just kind of want to demonstrate quickly how we can, flip the script a little bit. If we want to look more for these residential plays, maybe we can look for something in opportunity zones. We can kind of start focusing in on this particular area. And you can always look to see if there's anything that's vacant land as well. Here we go. So that basically means that these are 4 parcels that are zoned for residential, lot size 25,000 square feet and less. Median income is going to be less than $30,000, and then it should be vacant lot. So, this could be a great assemblage opportunity that we can evaluate and do some type of multifamily play on that assemblage that could be for affordable housing. And, you could go into the modeler and start to build out and work the assumptions to see what the potential is for a multifamily play on this particular property. Here you'll see the 3D model come to play. And at this juncture, we could add in our parking. We can enter in our setbacks. Let's go a little bit less than that. We could also reduce and work on our gross buildable and the number of units. So again, you can start to play with the assumptions, work your unit mix. We're actually about to update and implement a new release where you're going to be able to label these as you see fit. That if you're looking to do 1 bedrooms for regular housing, you could label it that, and then the other 1 bedrooms might be affordable housing. So you could break it down by however your building needs to be. I should say, what the unit mix needs to be for your particular development place. So instead of just having these general micro unit studios, 1 bedrooms, you actually be able to label it exactly for what you need. And then you can enter the number of units. And then for those number of units, you'll have it associated with the gross buildable. So if you had some 1 bedrooms in here, this will activate the 1 bedrooms, and you'll see you can adjust that gross buildable as well. And, all the way throughout, we can work on, and then you would adjust in respect of the income as well. So I should say that's the rental rate for this particular building. So maybe this will be 1,600. And you'll notice as these numbers are updated, your KPIs automatically update, your return analysis updates, your assumptions automatically update, all being computed for you. And then lastly, you could export this out in this model into a PDF report. You could update obviously your costs as well. So maybe the hard costs. And again, I mentioned we're bringing in some market values that we are pulling in using our machine learning, bringing relatively currently. It's a strong baseline. I like to say these are vanilla numbers just to give you a good high level understanding of what is possible and just give you some ideas of cost. We are working on adding some more line items in terms of the cost side, but your hard cost is this, your soft cost, a percentage of that hard cost. But we leave everything adjustable for you because you might know that the numbers in your particular project might be higher or lower. Maybe you can do this for 170 a square foot. So again, in this gets updated. But this is kind of the present. This is more of the feasibility study. I don't look in too much because today was more about understanding how we can instantly canvas a market. And as I call it, instant market canvassing. That was kind of our premise today. But so I don't want to get too much into the 3D modeling, but I always like to just touch upon how this is another capability of Deepblocks, allowing you to do feasibility studies and go through various iterations. And again, understand that potential of a particular parcel. As I mentioned, this is an assemblage. But again, our real true key of today's webinars, again, I like to always kind of do a little recap, is the fact that we were able to canvas the entire city of Philadelphia from North Philly all the way down to South Philly. The main original search was based on industrial with specific guidelines and to quickly identify those opportunities that meet your criteria. And then you start to see the different parcels that are matching your criteria. And at that point, again, you can export those matches to a CSV file. So you now have a nice sourcing document that you can start to begin and work your deal in. As I mentioned, you can always select those parcels and work it through to the next interface and use our Explorer interface to do the 3D modeling and go to that feasibility study as well. So I do appreciate your time today, and thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again next weekend. Always feel free to reach out to me, Michael@deepblocks.com, as well as if you want to have a conversation about the software itself, if there's a webinar topic or a certain city you want me to discuss in upcoming webinars, please feel free to make suggestions. So I do appreciate your time, and we do have one last question here. Absolutely, yeah. I will be sure to reach out to you, and we can discuss. We definitely can discuss. I appreciate the question, and I will be sure to connect with you. And thank you so much for your email, and I will definitely be sure to contact you. And again, thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.